Hey guys, Yipshikim with another video, and this one is going to be a video on touching on the Warlock set bonuses, and not only the Warlock set bonuses, I also want to be talking a little bit about the artifact traits that are going to be coming in 7.2. So this is going to be like a little bit of a preliminary 7.2 discussion on Warlocks. Now, however, this is all very beginning. This is all stuff that's very much so going to be subject to change. It probably will change in the future, so don't take anything that I say too seriously, because obviously there are going to be some changes in the future, but I think it's important that you guys get some insight on it, and I can tell you guys my personal perspective of what they're trying to do for Warlock and the design that they're trying to go for. Maybe you can decide if you like it, decide if you don't like it, see what kind of thoughts you guys have. Maybe you guys have a different perspective than I am. I'd like to hear about that if you do. And so yeah, let's just jump right into it. Really quick before I start, sorry, I will touch a little bit on the Destro and the Demonology sets, but I'm not really going to go too in depth with them. I'm really going to be trying to focus on Affliction with this video. So we can see here that the Warlock tier 22 piece bonus is going to be Unstable Affliction has a 100% chance to cause your next drained soul cast to deal 20% additional damage each time it ticks. Obviously, you're going to be very powerful. That just means every single time that your UA ticks, your drained soul is going to be dealing 20%. So when you're channeling your drained soul, you can refresh it mid-cast if you have to move, and your UA ticks that you have applied will automatically buff the next one. So you don't have to worry about channeling the entire time after you've cast one UA. You can channel it, move, rechannel, and that 20% buff will still be there because it happens every single time your UA ticks for damage, okay? So that's really nice that that is worded in that specific way. For the 4-piece, fully channeling a drained soul grants you 0% haste until canceled. So what that means is when you're channeling drained soul, I'm assuming it's going to grant you a uncertain amount of haste. They probably don't know yet the number that they want to have in, and according to make it to do reasonable amount of damage for Warlock. So what this means is basically you channel drained soul, all your dots will all of a sudden start ticking a lot quicker. You'll start getting shards a lot faster. Your UAs are going to be expiring quicker, and you're going to be doing more damage during your drain, okay? So those are the two Warlock set bonus effects. Now let's talk just really quickly about Demo and Destro. So for Demonology, the 2-piece and the 4-piece synergize really well together. For the 2-piece, Shadow Bolt has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Call Dreadstalkers. And Call Dreadstalkers automatically triggers Demonic Empowerment on cast. So what this means is basically you're going to be trying to cast as many Shadow Bolts or Demon Bolts as possible to get the 20% chance to reset your Call Dreadstalkers. And when that reset happens, you're going to be able to cast that extremely powerful ability that Demonology Warlocks has. It's a really powerful cooldown. And that's not only going to give you a lot of damage, but it's also going to buff your minions with the Demonic Empowerment. So just a really nice quality of life change. Quickly talking about the destruction, basically the 2-piece is the belt. The Incinerate has a 15% chance to generate 1 soul shard, and then the 4-piece makes mastery a little bit more viable by allowing your chaos bolts to be affected by only the maximum benefit of mastery after you cast one of them. So those are the set bonuses for Nighthold, or sorry, Tomb of Sargeras when they come out. Really quickly was just touching on the Destro and the Demonology ones. Now I want to go back and talk a little bit more about the Affliction set bonuses, talk a little bit about what they mean for the class, and then move on to artifact traits. So for an Affliction Warlock, basically what Blizzard is trying to do is they're trying to turn us into a channel cast, a caster that wants to find time during a fight to get your UAs out, drain them completely, and then, do mechanics, and then find as much time as you can during the fight to get a maximum amount of drained soul uptime, okay? I want to talk a little bit about why that is, and I also want to talk about how it's super beneficial to Malefic Grasp, okay? So as we all know, Malefic Grasp is an extremely powerful talent which increases our dot damage by up to 70%. While channeling a drain. Also, when you apply this buff with Contagion, it just makes your dots do basically 200% increased DPS or more while under the effect of both of these. So while you have UA on the target and your Malefic Grasping, you're just doing a crazy amount of damage with all your dots on the target. So it's a super powerful build to be running. Now, I want to talk a little bit about why the Drain Soul haste buff is so good for this, and also why it's going to be something that we're really going to be looking forward to on single target, and then also some cons that it does present, okay? So, Drain Soul damage, the 2-piece, the 20% Drain Soul damage really doesn't matter. Drain Soul doesn't do a whole lot of damage in and of itself. It's only roughly accounting for maybe, not even 10% of our DPS, maybe like 5 to 6% of our DPS. So the 20% buff on Drain Soul really doesn't matter. It's the haste that we're really going to be looking for to increase our DPS a lot. So it's going to be the foreset of where our damage comes from, okay? So when you're playing Malefic Grasp currently, you get your 3 dots out on the target, you cast a couple UAs, and you drain, okay? And obviously this drain is buffing all of your dots. It's increasing the damage of all of your dots by extremely high percentage. And your UAs fade away, and you go ahead and refresh your dots and go about the cycle again, okay? So what's going to happen instead in 7.2 once you get this 4-piece is your UAs are they're going to expire more quickly, most likely, because you'll have an increased haste percent. And when you have an increased haste percent, your UAs expire faster. They still deal the same amount of damage. But not only will your UAs be expiring more quickly, your other dots are also going to be ticking faster, okay? So your Corruption, your Agony, and your Siphon Life will be ticking faster with the same duration. So what this means is right now, when you're playing the spec, generally speaking, when you cast, 3 UAs, you're pretty much done at that point. You can't really cast anymore because by the time you're done channeling your 3 UAs and draining them with the haste percentage we can currently have, your dots are falling off. You need to refresh them. So all this means is your dots will have a longer duration. You'll be able to refresh them in Pandemic more cleanly because your UAs are falling off more quickly due to the increased haste speed that you get when you channel your Drain Soul, if it does buff them retroactively, which I think that it will. So, that's just a really nice quality of life change because the fact that right now, when you cast up to 3 UAs on the target, your dots simply don't last long enough to drain the full duration and then refresh them. This is going to mean a really big thing for a couple of reasons. One, we're not going to have to worry about our Corruption and Siphon Life falling during our regular rotation. And 2, when we do get Fatal Echo procs, we don't feel as punished for not refreshing our dots because we're going to have a longer uptime on them, okay? So that's one of the minor things that this 20% cast speed does. The other major thing that this 20% cast speed does is it's ticking up the speed of your regular dots by 20%. So not only are you buffing them by the 70% of Drain Soul and the 18% of Contagion, they're also ticking 20% faster. So this just means another damage modifier being multiplied onto it. So imagine just having Bloodlust every single time you're doing your drain cycle. It's going to be absolutely crazy. I don't know if any of you guys have Sifus or have experience with Nefarious Pact, but imagine every single time you do a drain cycle, you have one of those procs up. You guys know how crazy the damage can be and how fast you can output such a high amount of DPS, okay? So that's a really, really important thing to focus on here, and a really important thing to note is just how much damage we're going to be doing each drain cycle. Also, the 20% haste increase is also going to affect the channel time of your Drain Soul. So not only are you getting the 20% increase from the 2-piece, your Drain Soul is also channeling a lot faster, thus it's doing more damage via the haste and also the 20% increased DPS, okay? So these all sound like really good things, and I'm not going to lie, they are extremely good things for single target. They're extremely good for single target boss fights like Corrosis. They're extremely good for any sort of boss fight where you're really focused on burning down an ad that will live for a while or any sort of boss for long term. But there are some cons to this. There are some cons due to the current style of play that Blizzard is trying to push us towards, and this is the fact that we're really losing our versatility on ad management. So UA Warlock, it's a dot class, it likes to dot ads, but they're really seeming to be pushing us away from that. They're really pushing us towards the fact that we really don't want to be spending a whole lot of time dotting ads because it's just going to take away so much of our potential on single target. If you spend time dotting ads, if you spend time, corruptioning them, agony them, getting your full cycle out of them and trying to do a lot of damage, you're just missing so much uptime on Drain Soul on your dots that there's really no point to dotting ads anymore. You're just really going to want to focus on getting all your cycles in because you'll be just a single target god, right? So that's kind of unfortunate for people who do enjoy the multi-dotting aspect, for people who do want to, continue along that route. It really does seem like they're trying to push us away from that, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Obviously, the Drain Soul thing is a single target thing. Obviously, when you're multi-dotting, you really don't have a whole lot of time as a Warlock to be casting or channeling Drain Soul, so that's just a really unfortunate thing, okay? So what it basically seems like, they're pushing us towards this Malefic Grasp playstyle come 7.2, which, some Warlocks will be a fan of, some Warlocks won't, but overall, that's what their plan seems to currently be. With regards to the artifact traits, now I want to quickly talk about the artifact traits before I conclude this video. The artifact traits that are relevant that you guys should be thinking about is when casting Drain Soul, it has a chance to not only deal extra damage, but also proc a Reap, okay? So what this means is Reap generation is going to be more consistent for Warlocks on single target when you do have that time to generate Reap, but this also is pushing us towards a single target Malefic Grasp playstyle because you're going to want to be channeling Drain to get Reap, but if you're going to be channeling Drain, you may as well just talent into Malefic Grasp to get that increased dot damage anyways, right? So it really feels like they're pushing us towards playing Malefic Grasp builds, so if you do like that, that is going to be something that you guys should look forward to. And the gold trait is going to be a fairly lackluster one in my opinion. It's going to reduce the amount of damage taken to proc your Seed of Corruption by 50%. This just means your seeds are going to be popping like crazy. You're no longer going to have to drain them to proc them. You can probably just put one dot on them and they'll go off right away. Now, this will be good for an AoE scenario on mini ads, but for the most part, this is a fairly useless talent in raiding because how often in a raid do we Seed of Corruption and need to proc instantly if when we already, have full dots on the boss, it's going to proc instantly anyways. It feels like a fairly lackluster new gold trait, but anyways, that's what they're seeming to give us. So this has been my opinion on the current 7.2 patch notes that have currently been released. You guys can check them out on MMO Champion 7.2 build. You can look at the builds that they have listed there. The very last thing is the Sacrolash change. So Sacrolash is getting a buff. It not only is going to have its current effect, it is also going to give 15% increased DPS to your corruption. This ends up being a 43.75% increased corruption damage if you're talented into absolute corruption. So obviously this makes corruption very powerful and multi-target. So if you do have that legendary, you do have something to look forward to in 7.2. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys liked the video, and I'll see you guys later.